of course, that continues to garner speculation. Are AEW and New Japan going to work together? And of course, we've had plenty of people like Meltzer saying that no, this is nothing, that it's just coincidental, or they're just kind of pushing the envelope. But of course, we've seen Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers come out in Bullet Club gear over on Impact. We now have Good Brothers, Bucks, and Omega collectively referred to as the Bullet Club a couple times on AEW. I don't know how they can get away with this without New Japan being involved with this at all. What do you guys think about this, Trey?
There is they have been in contact. There's something there because they let Moxley go to the New Japan Strong tapings, which he would not be able to do without permission for AEW. So that right there is, yeah, they have been in contact. There's at least a relationship there as far as that. And did you see what Kota Ibushi tweeted last night?
No, I did not.
Okay, hold on. I'm not gonna read the Google Translate version. I know Michael Nakazawa translated it. Let me scroll. I had it right here. 1 second. I never forgot his challenge to me via YouTube in 2008. I wanted to make wrestling more popular now that she was on the other foot, but this is my chance to make an appeal. I want a competition between two companies that will change the entire industry. It needs a shot in the arm.
Well,
Kota Ibushi tweeted that last night.
Well, that kind of starts getting a little definitive here, so I'm curious where we're going. Daryl, what do you think about all this?
Yeah, so my first thought was there's a big giant ocean between the US and Japan that might sort of hinder any sort of copyright IP lawsuit sort of thing. But now it's starting to sound like there might actually be some formal arrangement between the companies.
And lastly, Caleb.
Yeah, I mean, that's their guy, right? That's Kota Ibushi. That's not, Tori Yano. That's not like someone just with spouting off, talking out their butt. Like, this is their guy. He's their champion. And when he makes a statement like that, I think there's got to be some sort of credibility to that. And either he's getting a hand slapping for tweeting that, or he's doing that with the either implicit or explicit approval of management. And I think that he has it. I think he does, and I think that the door is opening. I mentioned earlier today on the Dynamite podcast, but what seemed to have been absolutely, we called this a fantasy booking session. It's starting to feel less fantasy in the past 3 months or so.
All right, so let's get into this. You're listening to the That's Wrestling podcast. We're going to be covering the what if scenario, plus what we want to look forward to for both AEW and New Japan this year, kind of more in the realistic realm, though, as just what we discussed, some of this stuff might not be as far-fetched as we thought. If you have any comments, questions, feedback, you can drop those to me, Eric, at thatswrestling.com, or you can follow us on Twitter at thatswrestling1 with the number 1. And we do all these shows live, so if you listen to this as a podcast, head over to YouTube or Twitch, so your application of choice, and follow us over there. Link is in the show notes if you're listening to this as a podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube or Twitch, you can grab this as a podcast on all your favorite podcast apps. There's also a link to our Discord as well to hang out. And with me tonight, I have Trey YX Carver, Daryl W. Perry, and Caleb Johnson. So we got a full house today. So I guess let's open it up here and let's talk about. Let's go with the assumption that the doors are wide open here, and we are heading down the route of of these two companies kind of working very closely together and trading talent. And let's assume that the pandemic, as least restrictions for these guys moving back and forth, is done by, say, July, and they can move freely back and forth at that point. Where are we going to go, and what do you think some of the most interesting matchups that we could be seeing, just either in the title picture on either side, or any interesting matchups we could see just in a G1 or something like that? Trey, why don't we start over with you? What do you think we could be looking forward to this year, whether pushing out a little past into the fantasy realm, or what do you think might actually be a little bit realistic?
What I think might be a little realistic is I'm not optimistic that travel is going to be easing up anytime soon. But if we're gonna start having the fantasy that suddenly we as humans are going to get our shit together and make wrestling possible again, I don't know. This is like it's been like, I don't know, trying to do like detective work to piece every little detail together, because it was like I remember being on Twitter last night and somebody was Fred Rosser did an interview where he mentioned that he had seen Moxley recently, and people were putting two and two together, and that Moxley versus Kenta must have already been taped, which I don't know. I don't know if the match has been taped, but they definitely they shot an angle for it last night. So, or they aired the angle for it last night. I don't know when. I can't nail down when those tapings were. I think the first batch were as early as like August, but there had to have been another set that's. I think the Super J Cup started another set of tapings.
Right.
And I've just been. So it's been irritating me because I'm one of those people that I need to understand the chronology to see how these things fit together. So it's been frustrating to me, but it's lined up, very well. So I don't know when any of this was taped, but I think I am assuming that Kenta has been back in the United States since he hasn't been on a New Japan card since New Year Dash.
Right. And
he's not.
And he lives in the U.S. anyways full time, so it makes sense that he came back after Wrestle Kingdom and New Year's Dash. So, I mean, these tapings could be post. Most likely, they were post Wrestle Kingdom.
See, that's what I can't nail down, because like they had episodes ready to go like 2 days or 2 or 3 days after Wrestle Kingdom. So I don't know. It's
all right, Daryl. What do you think we're looking for here?
All right. So what I'm thinking is we're not just looking at two companies. We're not just looking at AEW and New Japan. We're looking at AEW, Impact, and NWA, and New Japan. Because we already know that there's some kind of working relationship between Impact and AEW. There's a working relationship of some sort between NWA and AEW. So I think anything that goes forward as far as AEW with New Japan should realistically involve those other two American promotions. And then we're sort of looking at what a lot of people thought that the original All In was going to turn into, as sort of like a celebration of non-WWE wrestling. Of we're going to have Ring of Honor and TNA or Impact, the National Wrestling Alliance, and now this thing that Kenny and the Bucks started up with Cody, AEW. But what I could realistically say, as far as your question of like, what would a G1 look like with all of these other entities added in? I'm thinking you could wind up doing like all kinds of different things. You could have instead of just 2 blocks, you could have 4 blocks. Have one block be the Impact block, one block be the AEW block, one block be the New Japan, and then like set up some kind of Final Four. Or you could just like put however many competitors from each promotion, draw the names out of a hat, and then have these the blocks that are just totally made up of people from completely different organizations. So you could have, say, Kenny and Moxley in completely separate blocks going up against hell, I'd love to see Kenny be forced to go up against Doc Gallows in one of the G1 block matches. And then, of course, we've all seen the Kenny Okada matches. A lot of the AEW talent that was in Japan, like we've already seen them interact with the Japanese wrestlers. But having, just like one more once in a lifetime rematch in a G1 block or something. I would really love to see some of the matchups of like a tag league with like Good Brothers against God.
The FTR in New Japan. Yes, please. Dear God, yes.
FTR against Yano, and who's Yano's tag partner these days?
Goto.
Yeah. Like, could you imagine FTR just getting super pissed off at Yano?
Something like FTR against Finjuice, like a great babyface tag team. Like it just
All right, so Caleb, why don't we get your input here, and we'll go into some specific stuff. I got some specific questions, and we'll circle back to this topic.
Okay, I'm glad you said that because I have all these specifics written down here. But to be honest, like I think that Daryl, I think your point of having possibly an AEW specific block of the G1 and then eventually, some finalists moving in is something that could be a little bit more realistic with the pandemic as we know it right now and as we're living with it, because that could be held entirely in America. They could do tapings, or even have not tapings, I'm sorry, but show the matches on Dynamite or perhaps on a special, name show. Hey, this is going to be our G1 show. And then eventually, only have to clear a couple people to travel for their, the actual remaining G1. In Fantasyland, where this is totally not a problem, they have this open working relationship together. I would love to see all the names thrown in a hat, juiced up, you know what I mean? And then everyone just basically gets drawn into blocks. But I don't know if I would expand the blocks. I'm actually kind of thinking that you keep it at 2 and you limit your number of competitors. And it's going to be a different G1. That's the thing. Like if you're going to include Impact and AEW talent, then it's going to be different because a lot of times you have storylines even for those at the bottom of the G1 block because you're talking about a month, right, of storylines. And even for the people who are losing, everyone's kind of got a thread or a story through the G1. In this case, you're going to have less of that because you're going to have more potential competitors, I think. So it's going to be a little bit different than normal. And I've even got some names and stuff written down in the matches I'd like to see. We'll wait to go into that. But like you said, the World Tag League, the best of the Super Juniors, people like Penta, Pac, Sammy Guevara are people that I would love to see in a best of the Super Juniors type format. So I think that we could really see something happen here, but it's going to be a little bit slow. So there's kind of a difference here where we have to clarify, hey, this is the fantasy land where this door is wide open. But I like what you mentioned about having Impact involved as well, because, and now I kind of think we've shifted a little bit. I think Impact has taken the place where we once thought Ring of Honor was going to be. But I mean, obviously, a lot of that has to do with the management over there, and the changes and things that have happened with what's his name, who shall remain unnamed. But there were some things that came out. So Ring of Honor and their management are kind of in a weird hole right now, I think. And I think Impact has taken that place. But honestly, Don Callis' involvement, I know on the Dynamite review, we talk about this a lot, but Don Callis' involvement and having him on board, his mind for this stuff, I think he offers a lot. So I think that this partnership is, the Impact and AEW partnership probably is partially his baby. I know that he probably has wanted to do something like this for a while, and he obviously has ties to New Japan as well. So I think that there's a lot of potential here. We're going to have to see how it plays out. But as someone who, gets really excited by the idea of a fantasy booking or a once in a lifetime match, like you said, I think we've got a lot of possibility.
All right, so let's move on to some stuff that we would like to see as far as what type of talent trading we might look into or sharing. And since we were talking about FTR, why don't we start off with who would we like AEW to send over to do a World Tag League? Do we send, we'll go with heavyweights and then we'll go with juniors after. So let's assume heavyweight tag teams right now. And who do we want them to, or who would we like to see AEW team in a World Tag League over in New Japan? Daryl, why don't you kick it off here?
So I've got 3 teams that come to mind. One of them is already a former New Japan tag team, and that's Best Friends. So that definitely send them because they've already got the experience and the exposure, and I think the Japanese fan base would really be excited to see that team come back. The aforementioned FTR, just because the total contrast in styles would be something to watch. And I realize that I say it's a contrast of styles just because of the Japanese style being a lot more fast-paced, even though it's hard-hitting. Like FTR would definitely fit in with that hard-hitting, but it seems like it would be more of a throwback to like late 80s, early 90s, Vader, Stan Hansen sort of brawling type of wrestling. And then the third team, and I'm guessing that they're heavyweights. I don't know the exact weights here, but the Varsity Blondes.
Yeah, they're well over junior weight, I'm sure.
But yeah, I think that would be another team that would definitely have some interesting pairings. If you have, like Varsity Blondes against GOD, Varsity Blondes against Tokyo Pimp and whoever he's teaming with now.
Evil. Fucking evil.
Right, yeah, he teamed with Evil throughout the World Tag League now that he's over in Bullet Club. So but as far as like what might not be a fantasy level booking is that I don't think FTR's contract restricts them from being able to go do some New Japan stuff. So if travel starts to open up, that is something that could possibly happen. And that's something I was actually kind of looking forward to anyways, is seeing FTR over in New Japan anyways, because I mean
something that I think might be a little more realistic instead of them going all the way over to Japan is if New Japan starts building up the US based promotion that they have.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can have a little bit of the AEW talent getting involved with New Japan America or New Japan US. I forget the exact name of it.
Right. But I think as far as like World Tag League is usually at the end of the year anyway, so that could actually be a possibility of it with with it being opened up. Same with the G1 this year. It's going to be pushed. They plan on pushing it back to September, though it looks like the Olympics are going to get canceled once again anyway. So I guess we'll see how it goes. Trey, what are your thoughts on? Sorry, you just took a drink right as I was calling on you. What would you like to see for teams either trading back and forth and where we go?
I have two AEW teams. One is obvious, one is less obvious. FTR is obvious. They're the greatest tag team of the past 30 years, and I want to see them in that mix. FTR versus Finn's Use. FTR versus Dangerous Techers intrigues me weirdly. The other tag team, because they're kind of a throwback team, and I think that the experience would be really good for them, and I think that they would fit in surprisingly well. The Butcher and the Blade.
Ooh, that would be awesome. I think that would be a really awesome to see Butcher and Blade over there in New Japan. Yeah,
like the Butcher and the Blade against Goto and Ishii. Like, yeah, that sounds awesome.
Caleb, what are your thoughts?
Man, I'll tell you what, I won't even get into the guys that you guys have already talked about, because FTR is just the most obvious natural choice. I think these guys will fit in, they'll fit in by standing out in a weird way. Like, they will be unique to whatever tournament they participate in, whoever they face off against. Because they are different and because they bring a different style, they'll slow down these matches. And I think that they would actually get a pretty great reaction in Japan. I think that people would, especially if they came in as heels, I think that they'd really get a good reaction from the crowd in a negative sort of way. I also really want to see Jurassic Express. And here's the thing. I know that Jungle Boy probably doesn't fit the heavyweight class, but the idea is if you combine his weight with Luchasaurus together and then you split that in half, they're a heavyweight tag team, right? So, and to be honest, I'll tell you this too. The use of Tarzan Boy for Jungle Boy as his theme in the last few weeks, that is something, especially post-pandemic, where the fans are allowed to speak and make noise, right? And yell and clap. That is an entrance coming down that ramp that the Japanese fans are going to flip out for. It's very 80s. It's got that whoa, and they can sing along to that. I think that he would get over like you would not believe in Japan, Jungle Boy specifically. But I think the team of Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, sorry, Marco, but he's going to bring our weight way down. So then we'd have to be a junior team.
Well, you could be a never open weight 6-man.
Yes.
There you go. But I don't know. I think just the two of them would really open up Jungle Boy, because Jungle Boy, I mean, he's caught on here, but just the added weight of him becoming a worldwide name, having a Japanese fan base behind him as well, like, I think that would do wonders for a guy who right now is very young and obviously is starting to get a bit of a push. We saw Dynamite on Wednesday. I think that he's poised for something big, and I think that his character, his moveset, he would fit right in. Now, not like FTR, he would fit in just like the Japanese guys, pulling off some of these moves in a very quick, smooth style. I think that they would be incredible in a something like a World Tag League. I also second Best Friends because they've been there already, and they are established New Japan guys. So it'd be a no-brainer to bring them back. But Jurassic Express is something I'd be very interested in because I think that they would fit what Japanese fans are excited about.
So, all right, so I'm gonna see your Jurassic Express in Tag League and Eric's Jurassic Express with the 6-man never open weight titles, and raise you Jungle Boy and Marco Stunt as the junior heavyweight tag title holders.
So send Marco and Jungle Boy for the Junior World Tag League.
I just want the never 6-man thing to happen because I have a perverse desire to see Marco work with Yoshihashi.
All right, so let's go with let's go with Trey here.
One more tag team I want to throw to the. Not sure about the weight, but you can do whatever you want. But might be interesting. Miro and Kip. Miro in New Japan sounds. I think that he would really enjoy that.
Yeah, well,
You're getting ahead of me a little bit, because when we get to our G1 participants, yeah.
I'm the same way. Daryl, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I was going to say I would love to see Murder Grandpa beating the dog snot out of Marco.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Yes, please.
All right. So why don't we talk about the? Yeah, Trey.
I have one more fantasy match. Luchasaurus and Marco versus Minoru Suzuki and Doki.
There you go. That's where you get. That's where you get that match. All right. So, how about the other direction? What teams do you think who are currently in New Japan would work out in AEW? I mean, we can start off right off the bat. Guerrillas of Destiny would be huge with the American audience in AEW, and I think even Dangerous Techers. One, I wanted to see Zack Sabre Jr. in AEW anyways, but Dangerous Techers in AEW, I think Tai Chi might need to just tune up his gimmick a little bit, but I think as far as in ring, that could be pretty fun. Anybody want to touch this one?
A Tai Chi entrance in front of an AEW crowd with fans would get over.
Well, the only problem is that his song is not in English. I think if it was in English, it would get even better because people would sing the song.
Okay, I flew to Vegas once just to see Minoru Suzuki wrestle, and it doesn't matter. Okay, the people that go to these shows know the deal. It doesn't matter if we don't understand it.
All right, Caleb.
So, in response to that, I'll say this: I do believe that there are some things that can be lost in translation. And I don't specifically mean language, but sometimes the gimmicks, the styles, there are certain things that work in Japan that won't work in America and vice versa. I don't know if Tai Chi's entrance right now would work in front of, now you're right, the AEW crowd, who probably know him, and the ones who don't are just on board to get down with like whatever. They'd be like, sure, this is great. But you also have to think about the fact that they're trying to get these TV ratings up, right? They're trying to expand their audience, and Tai Chi might not be exactly what they're looking for in that sense. But I do think that, like you guys said, in ring, Dangerous Techers is a fantastic team that I think their style would absolutely work. But in terms of teams coming over, Guerrillas of Destiny is the obvious answer, because I think that once the current Bullet Club storyline is over, if this door really is open, they've got unresolved business from the foundation of AEW, where Bullet Club is fine. Well, Bullet Club isn't fine. And I think that GOD there, they were just in the beginnings of starting up a bit of a sub-faction called the Firing Squad, if you guys remember that, when AEW was formed, and that storyline was never resolved. And that's something that could blend kayfabe and real-life situations very well. I mean, you could have Cody coming out as this executive vice president and basically being told, you left us, right? You started your own company, you betrayed us, stabbed this company in the back. So, I mean, I think that could be something that could really ride the line between realism and kayfabe. Another team that came to mind for coming over is, and I know this was kind of not a short-lived tag team. I don't even think they're teaming anymore right now. But do you guys remember Tanahashi and Okada together? I mean, you want to introduce some of your top guys, right? You want to be like, listen, and those guys have charisma and personality and movesets that translate, right? They come over, high fly flow. That is so 70s and 80s. That is just, hey, my finisher is this big splash, right? And all these folks who AEW is trying to pull in say, hey, remember you disenfranchised WE fans? Remember when you guys thought that was cool and now it's not so cool? Well, here's a guy who reminds you of what it was like to be a WWE fan back in the day, except he's Japanese and he's old like these guys. He plays guitar. So I think Okada, and I mean, I know those are big gets, right? That's like, and you bring them in as a team, or maybe you come in and say, hey, listen, they're not really naturally a team, but we're bringing them in as kind of an excursion almost. They're going to come, show us what New Japan is all about, because who represents New Japan better than the two franchise boys. Like, hey, this is John Cena ×2 from Japan, and they're coming in to show us what New Japan is all about. And they can also set a great example, because when I talk to my friends about wrestling, I say AEW, and they're like, yeah, I've heard about that. That seems cool, right? When I say I watch Japanese pro wrestling, they're like, all right, you're weird, man. Like, you're going the extra mile here. So to bring in two of the poster boys of New Japan and say, no, man, New Japan or Japanese pro wrestling, it's not something weird. It's not like, this is legitimate, right? It gives a lot of legitimacy, and you're putting them in front of, 750,000 to almost 1 million people on TNT. So you want to make a good impression, and they're the best.
And Daryl.
Yeah, so definitely GOD. And I was thinking Davey Boy Smith Jr., but apparently he's heading to All Japan, and his former tag partner is none other than the Murder Hawk monster Lance Archer. But if AEW could land him, reform the Killer Elite Squad, and then you'd have some built-in storylines for any teams that come over. Put any two members of LIJ together as a tag team. Like, it doesn't matter which two, just any two members. And that would be just a good team to bring over.
And when we were talking about this, another team, we didn't even mention the current junior tag champs, Taiji Ishimori and El Phantasmo. ELP is probably one of the best heels right now out there, because he is just an annoying dick, and I think he would get over like gangbusters in AEW. Trey, looks like you want to say something.
I was gonna rave about how great ELP is, and I have like a lot more to say when we do our show about New Japan and Nagoya. And I thought of that, but it's like, and Taiji Ishimori's great. You could definitely bring them as a tag team, but man, like, ELP has superstar charisma, and like, I would want that guy on my TV. But as far as my New Japan tag teams in AEW, Guerrillas of Destiny is the obvious one. I think Finn Juice would be great in a US promotion, a great babyface tag team. And as far as an LIJ team, the team that we saw in World Tag League, Shingo and Sonata.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just about to say. When you said, Daryl, when you said LIJ team, I was like, oh, Shingo and Sonata, because those are another two guys, and I know I'm focusing a little too much on this, but people who translate, people who get on an American television show in front of 1 million people, and people go, oh, I like them. Yeah. Like, I can just get on board with these dudes without having to wrap my mind around, oh, that's the Japanese thing, Tai Chi. I just think he's someone who comes out and people go, all right, that's a Japanese thing. He sings, I guess, Sonata gets on your TV and you're just like, men, women, children, everyone loves it. So yeah, Shingo and Sonata would be awesome.
I just had a thought. Shingo and Sonata versus the Young Bucks.
that is kind of a bummer that the Young Bucks weren't around when Shingo came in, because oh man,
yeah.
I just want to see Shingo fight everybody, so
Yeah.
And another team that I think would probably do good in front of an American audience, Sho and Yo.
Yeah, once Yo is healed up, yeah. I'm curious where they're going to go with that. I mean, that's kind of a thing that we're kind of unsure, especially considering Sho did so well on his own in Best of the Super Juniors. I don't know how much longer a tag team they are going to be.
But given the the silver and gold sort of makeup of them, I could see them having a good program with the Acclaimed, as long as the Acclaimed stop rapping.
And Top Flight.
Yeah.
Show Yo versus Top Flight.
But the reason that I said the Acclaimed, again, they've got that gold platinum thing going. So, it's a very similar sort of gimmick, if you will, but they present it in two completely different ways.
Well, you know who else has matching but slightly different ring gear? The Lucha Bros. Show and Yo versus the Lucha Bros. Like, just 25 minutes of adrenaline, and then at the end you just like you die of exhaustion, but it's amazing, right? Like,
I also want the Lucha Bros versus Shingo and Sonata. Since we're fantasy booking, I just want this for myself. I want Desperado and Kanemaru, but just like beating underneath tag teams on Dark. And then they show up on Dynamite. They show up on Dynamite like every 6 weeks to lose to a team that matters. And that would just be for my enjoyment. And apparently Tony Khan loves Kanemaru because he is a man of taste and culture as well. So,
all right. So we have that. Why don't we shift a little bit? We kind of touched on it. So Bullet Club Worldwide. Now that we are kind of running into this, we still have plenty of unfinished business. Regardless of these doors opening up, we have problems within Bullet Club already. Anyways, in Japan, we have a bit of a power struggle of, well, right now, Jay White is kind of in the... when Shawn Michaels lost his smile type of deal. But prior to that, we did have who is going to be the leader of Bullet Club. Really, who is the leader of Bullet Club at this point? There's really no one really sitting there right now. Jay White is kind of in the down in the dumps right now. Evil never really ascended high enough to be the lead, like he did for a second, but then went away. And now we have the pulling in of ex-Bullet Club members, some of the original Bullet Club members, and former leaders of the Bullet Club as well. Where do we go, and how does this explode? At some point, we figured this year was going to be the explosion of the Bullet Club in Japan, but now if we have all these added guys in, I have no idea what we could possibly be doing. Would the guys who have been kicked to the curb be welcomed back into the fold? Will there be a hostile takeover? Will, like Good Brothers and Kenny Omega force their way back in to take it over? Or I don't have a freaking clue about what could possibly be going on in this front. Trey looks like he wants to say something, so we'll go over there first.
Well, the time for this, like, it would have been better several years ago, and I guess this is kind of what All In was, but like, you have like all of these stories and all of these guys and the way that they intermix. Would a Bullet Club themed pay-per-view still work for an American audience?
I think so.
Probably. If WCW could have an NWO themed pay-per-view,
that's what I was thinking. We
could have a Bullet Club themed pay-per-view. But there's one thing that you have to introduce: Jeff Jarrett.
And God forbid he'd show up on Impact and people would just be like, I'm having like acid flashbacks. What is going on?
Well, I don't think we have to worry about that one for a while, because I'm pretty sure he's under contract to WWE for quite some time.
In a battle of the most obscure Bullet Club members, Jeff Jarrett versus Mephisto. You remember Mephisto was introduced as a member of Bullet Club on a Fantastic Mania tour and then was never seen in New Japan again?
If Vince were involved, Hornswoggle would be hiding under a ring as the anonymous Bullet Club leader, and then come out at some point and then just disappear, and it goes nowhere.
Oh man, I'm looking over some of the former Bullet Club members. That's pretty funny that Jeff Jarrett's in there. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you this. Here's my fantasy booking. One of my favorite comic books, I'm a big comic book fan. One of my favorite comic books that was pretty short-lived was a book in DC's New 52 run. It was called Batman Incorporated. And the idea was there were all these different people in different countries who kind of took on the moniker of Batman, and they all had different names or different something, but they were all under an organization run by Bruce Wayne. and they interacted. And some of the best part that got to me about it was their interactions with one another, because they didn't always all know each other, but they knew they respected each other based on this mutual, association for good and for justice. You flip that completely opposite. I think Bullet Club worldwide is a thing. Remember NWO Japan? Like, NWO was everywhere, right? Bullet Club needs to be everywhere. And there needs to be a period, in my opinion, in multiple companies where they start running roughshod, because Bullet Club used to be very feared in New Japan. And these days it's kind of like, who's the leader? It's more political almost. Who's tagging with who? Who's the leader of Bullet Club? They need to go back to running roughshod over that company. But in conjunction, at the same time, we need Bullet Club factions in Impact and AEW. Impact Wrestling is going to be Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers, right? Plus, maybe they pick somebody else up on the way. Maybe they grab, I don't know, someone like Austin. No, I almost said Austin Theory. Austin, whatever his name is, the guy with the magic.
Austin Ace?
Austin Ace, right? Pick him up from Bullet Club. Ace Austin, there you go. But then in New Japan, right? Get Jay White back in there. You know what I mean? Like, right now he's going through whatever. He's going through his Okada red hair and balloons phase. But he will come back and he'll be our leader. But Kenny Omega is going to be an Impact. We need a Bullet Club leader in AEW. The Young Bucks, and when his contract expires, Adam Cole, baby. Back from the dead in AEW, and he will lead Bullet Club in AEW because he has already proven himself to be incredible in NXT. People know who he is now. Now it's name recognition. It's not quite if AJ Styles left to go to AEW, but it's just the tier below. You know what I mean? It's Adam Cole. People know, love, and respect Adam Cole. And I think it would be so much fun because now you're starting to get into like old school BTE storylines, right? Adam Cole's dead. Bullet Club is fine. Maybe even get Cody involved. But I know we talked about this a little bit during the Dynamite review. I kind of like Cody in that EVP role right now, like being more of both a good babyface wrestler and, management kind of guy who comes out to do interviews in a suit. Like, he can get involved if he wants, but really, I think the Bullet Club leader in AEW needs to be Adam Cole.
And then,
see, we're way outside on that one because I don't think Adam Cole is his deal isn't done until mid 2022. So,
I thought it was 2021.
I don't think so because he was out in he got picked up by WWE in 2017. So I'm assuming he signed a 5-year.
I'll take a look at his contract.
We know at some point SCU is going to break up, right? Apparently, Frankie Kazarian, former Bullet Club member.
Okay.
Once Christopher Daniels winds up hanging up the boots, does Frankie get in good again with the Young Bucks, Cody, and Kenny?
Okay, so if the storyline there, that was going into when Christopher Daniels beat Adam Cole for the ROH World Title, that it was like it was a work. It was Kazarian was a mole in Bullet Club that ended up helping Daniels win the ROH title in the end. So Frankie was never really Bullet Club.
Yeah, that was a short-lived one.
You're Bullet Club for life.
Yeah, I had another thought. I think somehow, some way, through Don Callis, the invisible hand who guides everything, we need a union for like a while, like a year and a half, between Kenny Omega and Jay White. And then eventually we get them together on the same side, like a heel modern day Mega Powers for a while. And then eventually they turn on each other and they'll have like one of the greatest matches ever. But I don't know. I just think that would be really interesting. And think of how this could play in, because you have the Omega Ibushi, you have the history between Jay White and Ibushi. there's so much stuff that we could do with this.
So since you brought it up, I don't know if either of you two listened to our podcast from this morning, but we went a little bit off the rails on figuring out, okay, what's this got to mean if some of this opens up. And my speculation or my desire is Kenny Omega. We're talking about how long Kenny Omega might be holding on to the AEW championship, and I figure it's going to be at least through this year. And one of my things was, well, if New Japan opens up between AEW and Kenny Omega is going on this belt collector type of run, do we end up seeing Kenny Omega versus Kota Ibushi for either the IWGP title or the AEW title? And I could go either way on either one of them, taking the opposite person's title off of them.
Title versus title. Give me the match, please. Just like inject it straight into my veins.
And the best part about that too is like Kenny is a heel now, right? And Kenny's doing like laying in with the boot. He's wearing even weird clothes. When he beat down Pentagon a couple weeks ago or last week, I mean, he had this funky purple jacket on and these steel boots, and he's kicking them, and he's totally out of left field. He's going full heel, right? What says I am not your Kenny Omega, I am nasty heel Kenny Omega, then facing down Kota Ibushi and taking that title off of him? Like, that is the most heat worldwide that right now, that's possibly the most heat anybody could have, is to take that title off of his best friend and someone who the New Japan fans have wanted to see have that belt for a long time. Like, it would be, the place would explode.
And I mean, we all know that Ibushi and Omega is destined to be a Tokyo Dome main event. Like, it's written in the stars. It will happen.
All 7 of them.
Yeah. So
it's a best of 7.
I think the reference is to it will be an 8-star match, but yes.
No, I know. I was just teasing.
So this is kind of fun. I didn't even realize this happened. So I was looking at the wiki page for Bullet Club, and it says that Jay White is no longer part of Bullet Club as of January 6th, and that Evil is the leader. And I'm like, where did this come from? I just looked on the profile page of New Japan 1972. Jay White is not on the profile page anymore. So this is getting interesting with this Jay White being a little bit in little quitter mode here.
Yeah, I mean, I think he signed a 7-year contract
He
like
did.
2 or 3 years ago. So I think this is a very thorough work.
Yes.
But yeah, they are going all the way with it.
Yeah.
Speaking of contracts, just to answer your question, Eric, I took a look. As of June 2020, Adam Cole had 18 months left on his contract. So you're right. He's going to extend into the spring of 2022.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Yeah, because Cole left Bullet Club May 12th of 2017. So that would probably be when he got picked up by WWE anyways. But going on this,
You say left like it was his choice.
well, yeah. But going on this worldwide, like, we could have we have like Los Ingobernables, which we have, factions in both Mexico and Japan, and then we could end up going, if this all worked out, we could have the Bullet Club US, Bullet Club Japan, and then at some point, where do we go? If we have Kenny Omega, say, building up the faction in the US, then doing a hostile takeover in Japan could be an interesting storyline, assuming the Japanese Bullet Club kind of figures out what they're doing and they're kind of more unified front, which it looks like it is now. If Jay White's kind of he's on the outs with them right now anyway, so there's really not much internal strife these days. That kind of died, but I'm sure Jay White's going to be coming back, and we might be seeing a little bit of a vengeful side of him. But I guess
and
if I could just put a pin in that real quick, just say this. Think about how much of the wrestling we know and love today in this modern era is built on the back of Bullet Club. Think about Finn Balor and AJ Styles in WWE and the Good Brothers for some time. Now Impact Wrestling basing huge on the Good Brothers. They brought them in like they were a major acquisition, right? You've got Adam Cole tearing up NXT, so that's back to WWE. You got the Bucks and Cody and Omega in AEW. And then Jay White, honestly, like I know he's weird right now, but he was holding it down over there for a while. He was one of the best heels in wrestling. So every major company right now, and weirdly enough, Marty Scurll was in charge of ROH. You know what I mean? As weird as that is to talk about now, Bullet Club is everywhere already. All we need to do is put on the shirts and look, you know what I mean? Like now Bullet Club it's already taken over.
All right. Anyway,
I was just gonna point out that when NWO was like, just taking over WCW, not even to mention the NWO Japan, but they had at least throughout the duration of existing, looks like at least 4 different subgroups. So there was NWO Hollywood, NWO Wolfpack. There was the NWO Elite that then caused, just by default, the NWO B team to exist. There was NWO 2000. I think there was also like an NWO Silver for a short time.
That was NWO 2000.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, but let's not let this go to total shit like WCW.
Right. I'm just pointing out that if you have the firing squad and the elite as 2 distinct subgroups, and then also have just like Bullet Club of the entirety of Bullet Club.
Right, but instead of NWO NWO Japan, let's have Bullet Club America, because Bullet Club is Japan, right? So you say Bullet Club America like they're the subgroup.
Yeah, because they are.
Yeah, 100%. Jay White is my Bullet Club leader.
All right, so let's move off of the Bullet Club here, and let's talk about. Let's go 2 routes here. Let's go with who do you want to see over in New Japan, whether in, let's go both the Super Juniors or G1, because it would be awesome. And then the other is, we'll come back to it. So go because it'll be awesome, but then we're going to circle around after that. And because it would be good for the person to get the experience there. So let's start with it will be awesome. And I think we already kicked it off. Miro in the G1, I think would be amazing. One of the biggest ones I wanted to see, unfortunately, isn't going to happen. I really wanted to see Brody Lee in the G1. So it's a huge bummer. But I think Miro is kind of top of the list. I'd love to see Moxley go through a G1 once again, because, and if they can bring Shooter back to be his second with him.
Yes.
Or actually, that is one person. Now that I said that, I want Shooter in AEW with Jon Moxley.
Yes.
I have vignettes of Shooter at their house once they've had the baby, like helping with the baby. I want Shooter in the kitchen making bottles and like feeding baby, and there's like Renee and John like holding each other, and Shooter's like holding baby like it's his little brother.
All right, so who else do we want to see in a G1 or a Best of the Super Juniors, because it would be epic? Trey,
I have one, and it covers both. It would be incredible, and it would be great for him. Darby in Best of the Super Junior.
That's a good one.
I want Darby versus Hiromu.
Oh my god!
it doesn't need to happen because they will kill each other.
Yeah, there'd instead of having an ambulance on standby, there'd have to be a hearse on standby.
I would love to see Orange Cassidy in Japan.
Oh my god, our OC and Best of the Super Juniors would be insanely fun.
Orange versus Yano.
Yes. Also,
for the shitty trophy.
Anything? Pac. Oh yeah, Pac. Oh man. Yeah, in the G1, Pac in the G1, that would be insane.
And then Lucha Bros in anything, either as individuals or as a tag team.
Oh my god! Imagine Phoenix. Phoenix would be in the junior weight, wouldn't he? I'd have to check.
They're both.
They both would be
juniors.
Really? I think Pentagon's gotta be heavyweight.
No, every time they announce his weight, it's like 210, 215.
Oh. Well,
220 is the cutoff because it's 100 kilos.
Yeah. Pentagon L0M. Oh, he's only 5'11"? I thought he was taller than that. Okay. But yeah. All right, Caleb, let's say who do you think should go over, because it would be awesome to see them in a G1 or a Best of the Super Juniors?
All right, because it would be awesome. And I have different answers here when we go back around for good for them. Because it would be awesome, I really want to see Hangman Adam Page. I know he's the basic white boy answer, but I like Hangman. I want to see him face Ospreay. I want to see him face Ibushi in a block match. I think that Hangman left New Japan and people looked at him like he was a B+ player. And I think Hangman comes back now. Hangman's a star. Hangman has developed so much. He has become one of my favorite parts of Dynamite every week. He's shown himself to be of championship caliber. I mean, putting on great matches. I mean, and rightfully, I mean, I said this earlier during the Dynamite review. I wish Hangman was my Dynamite champion, or my AEW champion right now. I know it needs to be Kenny Omega. I know that's the right choice. But gosh darn it, if I don't want Hangman to be my babyface champion, because I'm rooting for him. He's poor, accompanied by a crippling emotional baggage. He's got an alcoholism problem, and he could be happy. He could be happy, and I want him to be happy. So I want him to go back to New Japan, and I want him to show them now, I am not, your fourth favorite member of Bullet Club. I'm my own man. And I think that he's going to go back and absolutely kick butt. And the nice thing is, he works well with anybody. Like Miro, I've got Miro here, but I wrote under Miro, Jeff Cobb, and Goto. That I'd like to see something like that. Hangman can work with anybody, man. I don't care who he's facing. I'm intrigued by the possibility, and especially, like I wrote down, I mean, Ibushi and Ospreay, I want to see him hang with them. He can slow Ospreay down a little bit, and he can just hang with Ibushi. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay, what about Ishii? Miro Ishii?
Yeah.
Okay, so my second answer under Hangman because it would be awesome was Eddie Kingston. I want Eddie Kingston Ishii. Are you kidding? Eddie Kingston Ishii. Or get this, get Lance Archer involved. They're feuding already. Just put Lance Archer and Eddie in the G1. Be like, hey, they're continuing their problems. They had problems here. They have problems here. You know what I mean? They'll never stop fighting. But Eddie and Ishii is like my dream match.
I need to jump in because I have two matches written down on my paper that are unrelated. But number one, I agree on Hangman because he was in the G1 in 2018. And just like in a match that like hardly anybody talks about, but it was one of my favorite matches of like that entire year. Hangman and Minoru Suzuki. Just I keep the visual of Suzuki slapping Hangman and yelling, "Come on, boy!" Like just that lives in my head rent free. I want that rematch. I want Hangman to say, "Okay, let's see who's the boy now." And the other match that I need to see is Minoru Suzuki versus Eddie Kingston.
Oh my god, that'd be insane. Yeah. Did we cover everybody on the who wants to send over because it'd be awesome?
I mean,
Yeah.
just to that point, Trey, if you guys saw Dynamite on Wednesday in the opening match with Kingston and Archer threw him over and he grazed that apron, like the outside of the ring. And he just went, and he twisted, and he thought, and the commentary sold it really well. But like, I looked at him, I was like, he might be jacked up. Like, that was such a hard hit. Putting him in there with Ishii or Suzuki, like, I'd be so worried. And it's different. Like, it's not like Hiromu and like, you know, Naito and people like, ooh, they're kind of falling on their neck. That looks bad. It just looks like death. It's hard hitting.
All right. And one other person, because it would be awesome, in the Best of the Super Juniors, John Silver.
Yes.
Yes.
Not only would it would be good for him, but I don't think he really needs the experience because he's awesome. So I think John Silver in Best of the Super Juniors would be epic.
I just want to see all the Japanese fans like, Johnny Hungy!
All right. So who do we want sent over because it would be good for them? And I would put at the top of my list, easy, Best of the Super Juniors, Jungle Boy, hands down. Send him through Best of the Super Juniors, and then send him and Luchasaurus and Marco Stunt through a 6-man tournament as well while we're at it.
So I've got 3 for the G1 and 2 for the Best of the Super Juniors.
Sending like half the roster.
No,
I know.
No, it's 5 guys. And one of these I think is a junior. I could be wrong here. Ricky Starks.
Yep, he's a junior. So, that he's on my list. Who?
Ricky Starks and Sammy Guevara for the Super Juniors. And then for the G1, Powerhouse Hobbs, Nick Camarado, and Wardlow.
I would love to see Wardlow in the G1. That would be, I think that would be great. But yeah, definitely Sammy and Ricky in the Best of the Super Juniors. That would just be bonkers.
Yeah. And then Camarado, like, he reminds you of Bruiser Brody. Just his look. Like, you know, he's a big, huge hunk of whatever he's a hunk of. And he looks like he will just, like, beat the shit out of you. But I think he could really use the extra experience.
It was a little thing, but when he lost the squash match to Moxley on Dynamite, like last week before last, one of the answers that, like, it actually, like, weirdly put him over significantly. One of the answers said, well, he was the only guy who would sign for a match against Moxley.
Yeah.
Little things like that can make a guy seem like so much more significant.
Oh, I just thought of another dream match because you know it would just be hilarious. Pretty Peter Avalon against Minoru Suzuki. Like, as soon as Suzuki just like pulls his hand back to slap him, does he start trying to tap out before he ever gets slapped?
Oh, that would actually be pretty fun. Again, over for G1, Luchasaurus.
Yeah.
I think that would be crazy for him to be over there for a full G1.
Would Luchasaurus, the name, not the wrestler, but would the name translate, or would they have to wind up giving him a kaiju name?
Luchasaurus.
Yeah, actually, I kind of like the kaiju angle. Like, if he went over and he just changed it up a little bit so he was like Godzilla or something, that might be kind of neat. I like that idea.
Doesn't have to be Godzilla.
No.
But, just like some big, huge, giant, nuclear lizard that came out of the ocean.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. I don't know how we missed this team for a World Tag League. Uno and Grayson.
Ooh.
I almost said that.
Really, I just like to see.
After. Yeah.
I'd like to see just Grayson in either like a G1. I'm guessing he's heavyweight. I'd like to see Grayson just by himself in a G1 because that guy is amazing.
I was gonna say, I actually hadn't really thought about Uno and Grayson, but I definitely am more now after this past Wednesday. Did you see Stu Grayson running wild on people?
Yeah.
I was sitting there like, this is incredible. He's so good. Him and Kazarian are two guys you forget can do that, and then they do it, and you're like, what's going on?
The match that they were in on the Brody Lee tribute show when Evil Uno was showing that babyface fire against Eddie Kingston. Oh my God! Like, need more fiery babyface Evil Uno.
Now, if we're jumping over to Impact to take somebody to Japan, you've got to say TJP.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, well,
he's been going. He already works with them anyway.
Yeah,
he's already on Strong, I think.
And he was going to Japan before the pandemic too. So yeah, he's like original LA Dojo from like 2004.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, he was. Actually, he was pretty fun. He was teamed up with a Young Lion, not this year, but the previous year's Junior Tag League. And it was
Connors, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, they lost every match, but it was still fun watching him. And I think actually, the match that they had with Taguchi and Rocky was actually a really good match.
Oh, and another guy who's working for New Japan Strong, and I'm assuming will hopefully get a shot in Japan when the pandemic is over, Leo Rush.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yes, please.
But and then we have obviously coming back who we want to see in AEW. There's a laundry list in New Japan right now. The biggest, I think, Will Ospreay. In AEW, obviously the style fits. Of course, now that he's a heel, it's a little bit different. But it would only make sense for Will Ospreay to be kind of top of the card almost when coming over to an AEW type situation.
Absolutely.
Think of the matches that Ospreay and Angelico could have, since they're both that very technical submission style wrestler.
I'll tell you what, I like Angelico and Jack Evans to a reasonable degree, but every time I see them, I just think of ELP, and I'm like, ELP does all of this better. The last time Angelico and Jack Evans had a match, I was sitting there. Actually, who was it? I want to say it was Jack Evans, I think, was doing a match, kind of a submission-based match on Dynamite a couple weeks ago. And the review, I said, oh, was it Angelico?
Angelico and Cody a few weeks ago?
Yes, okay. That's exactly right. So I'm watching this, and as he comes out with his headbanger music, my note was, Angelico is not ELP, sad face. And then he tried rolling it with Cody, like submissions, and then I wrote, Angelico is not Zack Sabre Jr. either, sad face. So I think he just doesn't do it quite as well. But for guys who could use it, right? Because my first answer for Best of Super Juniors was Pac, because he's an All Japan boy. And if he showed up in, if he showed up in, what'd you say? Oh, Dragon Gate. I'm sorry.
Dragon Gate.
You're right. He's a Dragon Gate boy. So to see him come over would kind of be like Kenta coming in, to see Pac on a New Japan stage. But I don't think he needs it. I think Pac, he knows what he's doing. Sammy Guevara was the first guy to come to mind. I think he's actually a little older than I think he is. But I'll tell you that I think he could use a little bit more experience. I think that he could work heel or babyface. And to be honest, I think right now within the Dynamite storylines, I think he's becoming a babyface anyway. But I think he could work either way. And I think that the experience would be good in a tournament situation where you're just working every couple days. And getting those reps in. Ricky Starks is another great call. And I actually didn't have him on my list initially, but that is such a good idea that I've actually crossed out my other one. And then either for the best of Super Juniors, Penta or Phoenix. And the reason I say that is because I know that they have a lot of experience and they're both good. but sometimes I feel like they are just working too quickly. I feel like they're not taking their time to pace their matches. They're just coming in and doing like insane flips. And I'd like to see them work with a variety of opponents. Don't just have them with the Young Bucks, right? Just don't just put them in there with guys who can work their style. Make them work someone else's style. So I'd really like to see either Phoenix or Penta. Penta's my favorite. I'm a Penta guy. For the G1, Wardlow is such a good thought. I hadn't even put Wardlow down. That's another one I just added to my own list because Wardlow can absolutely use I'm not saying he's bad, he's very good, but he can use more development and refinement. He has a character, and right now he's really defined by MJF, right? He's MJF's lackey. Once he breaks out on his own and that inevitable split happens, then put him in the G1, because there he can refine his moveset, he can refine his gimmick. And the only other person, and he doesn't really need it either, but I would like to see Cody back in New Japan. It's very weird because of his situation and his role within AEW, and also about to become a dad. Like, this probably is the least feasible, but I do like what he adds as the American Nightmare when he was in Bullet Club. And I'd like to see him in a match against Jay White. I think that Jay White and him could work really well together because they are two of the most classic, clear-cut babyface and heels in wrestling today. Like Cody, there was a moment like a few months ago where it was like, ooh, could he be turning heel? But they did away with that, and now it's just like he's the freshest babyface who is just always nice and good with interviewers, and like just it'd be such a clear-cut matchup of the most dastardly heel and the most brilliant, brave babyface. So I'd like to see Cody back.
And I just thought of one more that could use it. And I'm not sure if he's a full-time wrestler with AEW, but it's the guy that if you order The Rock off of Wish, Sean Maluda.
I don't think he's full-time, but yes, he's probably got a Talent Zero contract.
It'll bring up, there may be another political issue that would get in the way of some of this stuff, like especially with the Lucha Brothers, is they're AAA guys, and New Japan works with CMLL, so that could be. Now, I don't think it would be a problem as far as like Omega or anything, but if we are just fantasizing here, if there is a détente between New Japan and AAA, and we're bringing in guys for Best of the Super Junior, Laredo Kid and Hijo del Vikingo.
There was also this is the wackiest team for the junior tag, but I'm gonna go for it. I want to see the team of Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss.
Yes.
Yeah, I had
that's a thing I didn't know I wanted.
I had one more dream match written down, and I think that this could be a possible submission for G1. Shingo versus Brian Cage.
Yes, that would.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. I like Brian Cage, and believe it or not, actually, I don't know why I didn't think of him for G1, because he's a guy who I think would be awesome and could use it. I think he's someone who rides right in the middle there and could help be a little bit more well-defined, I think.
And he does the Steiner screwdriver as a finisher already. It's New Japan, part of the lore. It's perfect.
All right. Yeah, I'm not sure where else to go from here. Anybody have any other topics they want to touch on when it comes to this? Trey does.
I don't know if we were explicitly talking about like New Japan guys who would like to see an AEW. That was kind of where we were getting. So El Phantasmo is the obvious one because he's great. One that you and I have talked about on our New Japan podcast, Robbie Eagles.
Yes.
Yeah, Robbie Eagles in AEW. That would be great. And I keep thinking that I want, as like an excursion type thing, to get a couple of young lions in AEW for an extended run as a tag team. And the combination that I came up with is Ren Narita and Yuya Uemura.
Yes, that would be that'd be actually really great if some young lions did do an excursion into AEW. But I mean, their current young lions are so good. Like, this current class is insane when you got Yuya Uemura, you got Yota Tsuji, and then Gabriel Kidd. You know, Gabriel Kidd already has like multiple years under him anyways, as well as like Carl Fredericks.
Clark Connors.
Yeah.
So freaking good. Like, there's so many of those guys that are ready to do something, that need to be doing something.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted Shooter to be in AEW, so he could be with Moxley some more, because that would be just awesome. We already talked about that a bit. But
right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Shooter needs to come over, because the thing about him is that he doesn't have to be like Moxley's little buddy. He could just be there doing their excursion tag team thing. But how cool is that when Moxley, your former world champion and arguably one of the most popular people in your entire company, is like, I know this guy. He's pretty cool. Like, you have his endorsement, right? Like, this guy, I'll rep for him. And
then that already elevates him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
That instantly elevates him.
Instantly.
It'd be like,
and you've got
like
footage
the
of them
relationship
together already for a video package.
Kind of like the relationship between Box and Darby, where they're not a full-time team, but when one of them needs a partner, they come together.
Right.
Exactly.
That would be a great for Shooter and AEW.
And I think one other person I'd love to see from New Japan against a lot of people, just because it's such a styles clash all the time, but that would be Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah.
Yes. Zack Sabre Jr. versus anyone.
Yeah, I wanted him into AEW since the beginning, because especially with all the styles that they have, he could slow people down, and it always ends up being really good. Even if like they don't work his style, he will force them to work his style, and it turns out pretty good most of the time.
And I could see Ishii having a lot of good matches in AEW. Suzuki, obviously, it's already been mentioned. Suzuki versus Eddie Kingston, Suzuki versus Lance Archer would be good.
Marco
Brian
Stunt.
Cage, Marco, yes.
Okay, so
Yeah,
there's somebody that none of us have mentioned that deserve a mention, and it's for the AEW tag teams going to New Japan for a World Tag League. Santana and Ortiz.
Yes.
Yeah.
They absolutely deserve a mention.
We should be ashamed of ourselves for not thinking of them sooner.
Especially since MJF and Jericho are the official tag team for the AEW World titles. They said nothing about any other organization's world titles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Santana and Ortiz are a great tag team, and I think that they would do well.
Well,
absolutely.
What would you think about MJF getting sent to Japan for a tournament?
I'd love it.
I don't think for a tournament, but I think for like a kind of semi-featured match on like a Dominion or Wrestle Kingdom card where he's going to get punched in the mouth by Ishii.
No, think about it. Think about MJF over there for 2 weeks, pissing off the entirety of Japan. And then, the prime minister has to beat the shit out of him because he's just causing too much trouble, and he gets forcibly removed from the country before he can even have all of his matches.
I was wondering if you're going to go that way. That would be hilarious if he went over and he only got like 5 matches before he pissed off everybody and got kicked out.
Yeah, like telling 7-year-olds to go fuck themselves and flipping them off in pictures. Like, that's not going to get you a warm welcome in Japan. Like, somebody will straight up murder you.
See, my gut reaction to that, honestly, and I mean, I love MJF. I love how much of a heat magnet he really is. But part of me wonders how much of that is kind of Americanized. Like his music, just the style of music makes me mad. Like when it comes out, I'm just it's weirdo, you know? And the scarf, that's very Burberry. Like that's kind of something that we look at and we go, like just looking at him and hearing him make his entrance before he opens his mouth, you're already mad at him. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that translates quite as much. Now, the flipping off children, like that is probably universal. Like that'll get him some heat. But there are parts of MJF to me that think a Japanese audience might be like, okay, here comes this guy. He's wearing a nice scarf. Like, let's find out more about him. And I think a lot of that, because we look at him and we're like, ew, nasty, like posh Long Islanders. You know what I mean? Like, but it's kind of an American thing. So I'm wondering how much he would really get. Plus the way that he disrespects people. He's always very like, okay, honey, like just go get yourself a pack of gum or whatever. I don't remember when he was talking about his campaign manager. Like some of the things he says and his sarcasm, I just don't know. I'm wondering. And it would be a great fit. But you know what? If he could get the same reaction in Japan he gets here, like you said, they'd kill him. They'd kick him out of the country. But I just don't know when he shows up if people would be as mad at him as we are now when he comes out. Because all he has to do is walk out and you're already pissed.
Something that I think would work better for both of them, and especially for MJF and Wardlow in as like for a tag league. I think that those two as a tag team with, you know, MJF getting the heat and Wardlow is just like made for a Japanese promotion. They would be perfect.
And then
that's true.
After they cheat to win like twice, then they'll start getting the heat, whether the character necessarily translates over or not.
Right, especially if he's got Wardlow with him and they do some very demonstrative, like Wardlow messes up and he smacks him, right? This guy's twice his height and he's reaching up to smack him in the face like, no, you do what I tell you. You're on my payroll. You know what I mean? That kind of thing, I think they'll go, oh, this dude could kill you if he wanted to. You know what I mean? I think that's something. So, Trey, I think that's a really good suggestion, actually, because that would help it a little bit more.
And one more is like a super dream tag match on a big show, because you got to go back to Jericho and Tanahashi eventually. Jericho and MJF against Tanahashi and Toa Henare, please.
Yeah, Toa Henare was really good in the World Tag League this year, teaming up with Tanahashi. So I think that would be a fun one. All right, so let's kind of get to this last topic here, and who do we think would be a good fit on playing in the other promotion's main event scene? We've already kind of talked about seeing Kenny Omega, Kota Ibushi. It's kind of a match that is destined to happen. It's like one of those matches that it would be very disappointing if it does not happen. But who do you think could come over here and play in AEW's main event scene, or who could head over there and possibly be in the title picture over in Japan?
Jay White.
Jay White in AEW.
Yeah, I had a whole thing about it earlier with him and Omega. I have an idea for the storyline and everything, but yeah, Jay White. And someone that we have not, Caleb brought him up a little bit in the tag team thing, but as far as somebody who needs to be mixing it up with the main event guys in AEW, Okada.
Okada had one of the best matches of All Out. Like, and what, we just forgot he existed? Like, American audience were like, who was that incredible Japanese dude? And then he just never returns.
And I feel like
get him back here. And we forget also, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but we forget also, Okada's not the champ right now. Okada hasn't been champion for a while. Like, let's put him in a featured role, because he's still the best in the world, or one of. He's pretty close to one of the best in the world. And he needs to be featured because he's still going to be your guy, right? He's still going to challenge Ibushi. He's still going to. So, I mean, we need him, I think, in that role. And he has universal charisma. He comes on over. He's got a good submission finisher now. His Rainmaker. The only caveat to Okada is that they're already using the Rainmaker shot for the best friends hug. So that would feel a little derivative when he does the Rainmaker pose and they zoom out. They'd be like, oh, he's just like best friends. Well, kind of. But yeah, Okada absolutely needs to be in it.
So the kind of like, oh yeah,
Who?
yeah,
Kenta. There's already some history between him and Mox.
Right.
So, like, it just makes sense to throw him immediately into, like, the top tier.
And it would make sense because he's already familiar to the U.S. audience as well, for those who have at least paid attention for NXT.
Yeah.
I still want Kenta to be the one who attacked Moxley backstage.
Me too.
I think we all do.
I think, but I think there's always been speculation it might be somebody from Impact as well. But I mean, being Kenta would be the most obvious choice.
So Okada's storyline for the last year or so has pretty much been, you know, and Alexander wept for there were no worlds left to conquer. Him going in, because he's not the champion and he hasn't been for a while. He could definitely go and get into the main event mix in AEW. And just thinking about, like, he's charismatic. He speaks English well enough that, like, he could talk a little bit to get people to like him. And to just have him on TV regularly, I think would be great for him, great for New Japan, and great for AEW. What about Okada as the TNT champion?
that
I mean, the never-ending reign. Who's going to challenge that guy?
But then we could also get Okada Omega 5.
Which, yes, we'll have.
Yes.
That is a main event for a New Japan AEW Supercard at Madison Square Garden.
Yes. or their first. That was
the original.
Right.
That was the original main event for Madison Square Garden before Omega left to do AEW. Omega was supposed to be in the Jay White spot.
Or it will be the main event of AEW's first stadium show.
That's
Other than the Stadium Stampede?
Well, I don't think that one counts.
So we've talked a little bit about, hey, here's, New Japan and AEW, and here's AEW and Impact. What if we did this, right? What if we have Impact guys traveling through to New Japan? You know what I want is Sami Callihan. I want Sami Callihan in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And I want him somewhere in the mid-card. I want to see him challenge for an Intercontinental belt once those get split up. Or perhaps
Sami for the Never title.
That's exactly what I was just about to say. Sami for the Never title would be so cool. Also, another guy who I'd like to see from Impact in AEW is Moose. I'd like to see Moose come in and challenge for the TNT belt. Maybe go in, have him come in like he's hot stuff. Impact champion. Well, what is he? TNA World Champion, whatever he is right now. Have him come in, challenge for the World Championship in AEW, lose, and then go on a tear in the mid-card for the TNT Championship. I'd love to see Moose come in.
I think a lot of people don't remember, but I do because I brought it up recently. Like 4 or 5 years ago, we got at an ROH pay-per-view a Moose and Okada singles match that was like great.
I don't remember that at all, but
I have no recollection of that.
It was the anniversary show, I think, in like 2016 or something. I'd have to look it up to be sure. But
I'll tell you somebody from New Japan that I think could probably be a very solid mid-carder in AEW, and that's Bad Luck Fale.
That'd be interesting.
That's really cool.
That'd be an interesting one. I don't know how he would fit in, especially by himself. I don't know how he would fit in. He kind of does best as part of a group.
True, but like
So,
he's
okay, what
got
about-
that physique of like just one of the big horses. Like,
What about Fale?
I could see a horse fight between Bad Luck Fale and Jake Hager. Bad Luck Fale and Wardlow. Fale versus Brian Cage.
Trey.
What about Fale?
Trey.
What about Fale as the heater for Chase Owens?
Chase Owens over in AEW would be great.
Yeah, Chase Owens with Fale as like his tag team partner / heater. That may be a good use of Fale.
I mean, as you were talking about from Impact, I don't know how we left this guy out of the conversation. Eric Young.
Yeah.
Eric Young in AEW or crossing over into New Japan. I mean, that's just like gold.
Yeah, I like Eric Young a lot. I think that he could do very well in New Japan. I mean, I know we've talked a lot tonight, and part of the topic was to talk about what if this forbidden door is open. But there are a lot of opportunities that Impact and AEW have not yet done. Dream matches between these two companies alone. And really, the only taste we've gotten of it so far is the Good Brothers, right? I mean, you want to talk about the Motor City Machine Guns coming into AEW to mix it up with some of their tag team division. You want to talk about guys like Moose and Rich Swann working with AEW talent. This is stuff that is much more likely in our future and is still like, wow, I would have never thought to put these guys in the same ring together.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting year coming up. Daryl.
What about sending Matt Sydal over to Impact and have him go after the X Division title?
Yeah, I feel that. I like Sydal a lot. Despite his weird botch when he first arrived. I like him a lot.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen Matt Sydal because he was kind of after he left WWE. I don't think I really saw him that much. Maybe in ROH once in a while, but that was about it.
And then where is Matt Cardona officially signed to now? Or is he signed?
I think he's signed with Impact, or at least short term. He's on there.
But he also had like a couple of appearances on AEW and then just like disappeared.
Yeah, that was a short term deal, but yeah, he's been. I think he's a regular for Impact now.
All right. Any other topics we want to touch on before we wrap it up here?
Last guy I want to mention who is actually officially signed to Impact and should be participating in a G1 is Willie Mack. Do you guys remember Willie Mack?
Yeah, Willie Mack is great.
Yeah.
I love that guy. The first time I saw him, I was just like, and he's an older guy. I was just like, how have I never heard of this guy before? Like, this seems weird that I don't know Willie Mack. And putting him in a G1, I mean, I want to say he's a bit older. So, I mean, I don't know how well he would keep up with the schedule, which is obviously going to be hard on your body. But I want to see him get more recognition for just how good he is.
He is not that old.
Oh, he's not that old?
He's
I thought
34.
Okay, I thought he was almost 40. No. Yeah, he's definitely got a little time then.
Anybody else want to touch on anything before we wrap it up here?
I think we've gone quite a long time.
I was going to say, do we want to just briefly mention, because we've talked a lot about fantasy, do we each want to just say maybe one real thing that we think could happen? Like, what is our one prediction if, say, there was only one thing that AEW and New Japan did this year, other than Kenta Moxley, which we know is already happening? If there was like one more twist, one more person that happened this year, if the door very slowly opens, what will that one thing be?
All right. I'm going to go with, we continue down the route that I believe Trey mentioned, that we have to circle back, and we have Tanahashi comes back to challenge Chris Jericho on AEW soil.
Ooh. Yeah.
That's really good. I like that a lot. And that's how this door opened in the first place, right?
Right.
I mean, well, kind of Jericho and Omega, but I mean, Jericho was the guy, and it would be almost wrong to not include him when that door continues to open as a real significant, like, now it is. Right? This is a big signpost for this relationship continuing.
Right. Well, I mean, for the match of Jericho and Tanahashi, Jericho put a AEW title shot on the line if Tanahashi won. So that kind of opens the door right there to say, hey, I know I didn't win, but I'm kind of I at least want some revenge here.
Here's how we get there. Kenta beats Moxley for the U.S. title. Jericho beats Kenta for the U.S. title. And then we have Jericho Tanahashi.
That could work. It's a bit of a quick flip-flopping of the title, but to get it done, well, I guess what time frame are we looking at? We're looking into 2022 for that? Probably.
I'm thinking like Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah. So
you have the title switch whenever Mox and Kenta fight, and then at say Dominion, have it flip over to Jericho.
That's a possibility. Trey?
I have one more question to pose. Who is our AEW New Japan Supercard? Who is your dream English announce team?
Kevin Kelly.
Yes.
Kevin doesn't matter. Kevin Kelly, and then it doesn't matter.
Kevin Kelly. I have Kevin Kelly. This is kind of a weird mix, but Kevin Kelly, Jim Ross, and Excalibur.
Oh, you're leaving Tony out?
For one show, we gotta have Kevin Kelly in there.
But
we need Tony Schiavone doing interviews backstage.
Yeah, but Kevin Kelly can cover Excalibur's stuff. Kevin Kelly knows all the moves.
Jim Ross knows none of the moves or the wrestlers' names.
I don't think that you're wrong, but I think that Excalibur is the AEW play-by-play guy, and it's a weird mix, but I think it's the one that it needs to be.
Yeah,
I think Kevin Kelly, Don Callis, and Excalibur, because then you've got a duo that's familiar to New Japan English audience anyway, of Kevin Kelly and Don Callis. And then you add in Excalibur, and then the AEW audience, they're already familiar with Don Callis. They know Excalibur. So, like, everybody's getting two people that they're familiar with. And it's people that actually know the wrestlers' names and the names of the moves.
My opinion is have a variable team depending on the match. If it's all AEW guys against each other in a match, because there might be a match or two that's just AEW guys, have the primary AEW team. If it's New Japan guys, have primarily a New Japan team. So let's say you got 5 guys and you select 3 of them per match. So it changes, kind of like WrestleMania when they do Raw and SmackDown matches. Have a couple different voices in the mix. I don't want JR on there at all if anyone from Japan is in there, because he doesn't know. He's fine with the American guys, but he can't pronounce the Japanese guys' names, and he definitely doesn't know the moves. So I don't really like that. Don Callis being in the mix for anything Kenny Omega related is perfect. But you know who I miss? I'll tell you this. You know who I miss in my ears is Mauro Ranallo. I know he's not affiliated with anybody right now except like boxing. He's not doing WWE, but I miss just his pure excitement. And if they could even get him for like one match, I'd be so happy.
Trey, you wanted to say something?
I don't know.
All right. Anybody else got a topic they wanna broach before we wrap it up here? No? All right. Well, this has been fun. I'm sure we're going to have some more roundtables throughout the year, as a lot of crazy stuff. I think the roundtables have actually kind of been more of the more fun fun shows that
Yeah.
we've done. So we'll think of some more topics, and we'll start trying to work those in a little bit. So yes, you've been watching and listening to That's Wrestling. If you have any comments, questions, feedback, you can send those to eric@thatswrestling.com. You can follow us on Twitter @thatswrestling1 with the number 1 at the end. We have a Discord. The link is in the show notes, so you can come hang out with us there. If you're listening to this as a podcast, we do all of our shows live over on YouTube and Twitch, so you can choose your platform of choice. The link is in the show notes there as well. Head over to your favorite podcast app and leave us a review. And if you cannot find us on your favorite podcast app, you can shoot me an email, eric@thatswrestling.com. And I'll see if I can get it added, or you can always go over to thatswrestling.com to snag the RSS feed. So for Trey Wise Carver, Caleb Johnson, and Daryl W. Perry, my name is Eric LaRoche, and you've been watching and listening to That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.